Hi everyone. So this is a really quick video. There's not a quiz associated with it or anything. I just want to tell you a few things about this before you actually read it. So this is called Cheetos Flamin' Hot's Made Me Who I Am. The subtitle: in middle school, I envied wealthy white kids, but I had something they didn't have too. Namely, Cheetos Flamin' Hots. So she wants to talk about that, and I think one of the things that's potentially interesting about this that I want you to keep in mind with some of the other readings that we've had, a lot of what we're talking about with foods has to do with things like ethnicity and family and things like that. But I don't want to restrict you to that. I want you to recognize that there are other ways that you could go with this so that if you don't have a traditional family food, I have students who will say, like, well, I don't have any traditional family foods or something like that for whatever reasons. And I'm like, well, but that's okay. I mean, you eat, you go to the bodega, you grab a slice somewhere, you go down to the halal trucks, whatever, and talk about potentially what that means. How that makes you think about yourself as an individual person, how it makes you think about it yourself maybe as a New Yorker. I think I mentioned elsewhere that I had a student who had written about, in one of the other videos, the student who had written about going to get honey buns at the bodega and feeling like she was all grown up because she was able to do that. So recognizing that there are a number of things you could do like that. And so this is going to kind of mention something about that. Just go in the store and buy Cheetos Flamin' Hots, and that's perfectly fine to write about if you have some kind of junk food, as we're going to say about that. Another quick thing. So it starts out, as with any good legend, the origins of Cheetos Crunchy Flamin' Hots are contested. That is, they're unsure about the origins of them. For years, their invention was credited to Richard Montañez, who worked as a machine operator at a Frito-Lay plant in Rancho Cucamonga, California, in the 1980s. According to Montañez, after one day after work, he took plain Cheetos home, where he and his wife experimented with different flavors. The resulting snack led to his promotion to an executive position. However, last year, the Los Angeles Times broke the news that Montañez's story was inaccurate. He might have pitched similar products during his time there, but Flamin' Hot Cheetos was none of them. By the way, there's a Hulu movie based on this thing that is completely untrue about that, even though it's untrue, so you can go watch the Hulu movie if you want. But then she says, to me, though, Montañez's story speaks to a different kind of truth about Flamin' Hots. I associate them with the particular experience of being a kid who stayed after school while growing up in Los Angeles. And so, again, she's going after something different. It's not like a family thing or anything like this. It means, look, I was a kid who stayed after school. When I was in middle school in the early 2000s, those of us who stayed were mostly kids of color with a working single parent and no siblings, kids who otherwise would be home alone. Every day after 3, my friends and I went off school grounds to a convenience store across the street next to a Mexican restaurant to buy foods, which had been removed from the school vending machines in the principal's campaign against junk food. So this person is saying, you know what my identity is? You know what kind of defines who I am? It's this sense of being a kid who didn't have somebody to pick me up after school. I used to hang out after school. If you lived in New York, you may not have had, in the city, you may not have had this experience because you can get home in other ways. But in places like Los Angeles, where everybody drives, if you can't get anybody to pick you up in a car after school, you just hang out after school. You wait around there until the parents get off work, and then they can pick you up at school. And so she's going to say that these Cheetos Flamin' Hots connect her up with that. So she's going to go through and talk about that in a little bit more detail about how that works for her. But I just want you to keep that in mind and just recognize that there is that possibility that you can talk about that. There's an extra thing that you can read in there about keep a pack of Kraft singles in the fridge. That's a similar kind of a thing. Kraft singles being those single slices of cheese that are individually wrapped. And he's going to talk about his connection to those, why those become important to him. Why, as an adult, he still keeps that pack of Kraft's cheese in the refrigerator. So I just wanted to mention that to you, let you know that those are some things that you could potentially be thinking about, so that if you are unsure about what to write about for this essay, for project number 2, this is something that you can be thinking about, that you can be thinking about these kinds of, mass-produced, I'm going to put in quotation marks, junk food, things like that, that those will be perfectly acceptable.